From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Wednesday, April the 1st, the year of our Lord 2015. And now, here they are, live and in person, Jim Leon and Rich Massaro.
Questionable about live. Here we are once again, Jim Leon and the rebuilt, re-energized, renewed Rich Massaro.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
tomorrow. Actually, it's March 31st.
We're recording March 31st, but it's going to be on April 1st.
John confused me.
Well, it's easily done. I realize that.
Yeah.
But April 1st is a rather fitting day for you and I to be on.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. Excuse
Whoa!
my language. Uh-oh. We're starting off.
John, grab the phone. Dial.
We're starting off right now.
Oh, my gosh. John has just grabbed his heart. That's the end of it. Holy cow.
Sorry, that just slipped out.
Yeah.
It might be one of those mornings. You never know.
Well, we didn't have what we always laughingly refer to as show prep, so here's a day of winging it. Anything in particular on your mind before we get into topics at hand?
I just want to say poor Jimmy is struggling with all of his crazy customers there with the tax season rapidly approaching the end. So,
thank God I'm counting the days.
Yeah, you said that yesterday, counting the days. I texted Jim the other day. I said, barely heard from you all week.
Are you going to be in a good mood?
Yeah, are you going to be in a good mood today? So
my reminder was I'm counting the days. I haven't thrown anybody out of the office yet. I've been really good. I've been in the past when somebody's gotten me mad. I've taken their stuff and thrown it at them and told them to get out.
Yeah.
You know, last time I did that was actually somebody I've known for about 30 years.
Oh, that's the easiest one.
That's the easiest ones. I grabbed her stuff, threw it at her, and I said, "Get out!
Yeah,
get
out!
Get out! Don't come back!
Yeah,
I'm done with you."
All right. What are we going to talk about?
I will say this much: that the paperwork that you did for me, I got the end results.
There you go.
Yep, the other day.
There you go. We had to take care of John. He had a little bit of a. He just was over the amount where he really had to file.
Oh, okay.
So we took care of his. Got him out of the way.
Oh, good.
You know,
and he got a couple grand back. Good.
Yeah. You know, we magically made some things happen, but at least it's done and it's out of the way. Anything on your mind?
Yeah, you know what, Jim? The Bears signed a cornerback last week, Alan Ball, and I was thinking about this
I've been out of touch watching Bears stuff. So,
and I'm thinking about this as I'm thinking about the show coming up today, and I'm thinking, the NFL is just a mix and match league. I mean, a bunch of guys go from your team to other teams, then you bring a bunch more guys in from other teams, and now they're on your team. And it's like interchangeable parts.
It's like a big Lego.
Yeah,
you're putting
something like that. Because what I didn't realize is that here's a guy who was a University of Illinois grad. I mean, so he played for the Illini. He's been in the league for a fairly long time. I think he was like 4 years with the Cowboys, another year with the Texans, and then I think a year with the Jaguars, and now he's with the Bears. But I'm thinking these guys they just move around, and it's not like when we were kids, and everything was pretty stable. You knew who the Packers were going to have, the Bears, the Colts, whoever you want to talk about.
Your big discussion was who's this 11th round draft pick that they think might stick.
Yeah, I mean that's true. That was, and now that brings me to another question about the Bears, because I keep reading now that because they've filled some needs with free agents, that they're going to have more ability in their draft position to draft the best player available. And at first I thought, a quarterback is totally out of the picture, but now I'm thinking
there are not decent quarterbacks. Really, this is not a good year for quarterbacks.
No, but you know what? I've read a lot about I don't know how you say his name, Mariota.
Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, and what I really get a laugh out of is they say, well, he doesn't play in a pro-style offense. he plays in a sort of a hybrid offense. And I'm like, well, I mean, if he can throw, if he can make the throws, he can learn the other stuff. I don't think it's that. It's not like it's rocket science.
It's not like it's rocket science, but then again, they kept saying the same thing. Well, Tim Tebow could do it. Tim Tebow never took a snap under center until he went to the combine.
Mm-hmm.
He never put his hands under a center's butt.
Okay.
So he had no idea. His mechanics were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And it was exploited pretty well, although he had a little bit of a luck with Denver.
Yeah.
John Fox. And probably Mariota is going to have the same problem. I don't know.
Yeah, but how many? Well, that leads me to the question: how many quarterbacks do you see under center today? I mean, you don't.
You still
don't
see some, not every play.
You know, when I read that, he would have trouble, taking snaps from center when he was directly under the center. I had to sort of laugh because I'm thinking, how many times does that happen in a game? The other thing is, you can teach a 9-year-old to take that snap in probably less than one practice. So I would imagine that a guy who's an All-American and was he the Heisman Trophy winner?
No.
And he was
Or
in
was
the
he?
race
Yes,
for the
he was.
Heisman
Yes,
Trophy.
he was. Yes, he was.
I sort of doubt that he's going to have a big problem learning how to put his hands under the center's butt and taking a snap.
You think he's going to? He and Winston are going to be 1-2?
Yeah, I do. I think Lovey's going to take Winston. And I think, but I think Mariota. I don't know exactly what the draft order is, but my sense of it is that the Browns are going to keep rolling the dice till they get it right, and Mariota is probably going to be their guy.
Oh God! Oh
So,
God!
Boy, I tell you,
I'm almost feeling sorry for Johnny Football,
Oh,
but I'll get over that.
This whole thing is ridiculous. I'd have to say it's more of an organization problem than a talent problem among the guys that they draft.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you have guys. I mean, these guys aren't terrible players.
There is no organization in Cleveland.
It's bad. It's very
Yeah,
bad.
there is no organization in Cleveland. You have an owner who he's just willing to, like you said, roll the dice every time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess though, it's not a bad idea.
Throw it against the wall and see if it sticks.
Maybe it's not a bad idea because eventually, maybe you get one that works out for you. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's the right way to do it. I don't know.
I don't know. You finish, you have bad enough teams. Keep getting those top 5 draft picks. Eventually, something's going to work.
Yeah. The only thing is that now, if you get a guy who's actually an effective quarterback, and you have these teams that are consistently drafting high because they're bad, you got a bad team around them. So how do you really, how is a guy really going to have a chance to shine
Right.
in that situation? Unless, I mean, there are probably a few quarterbacks who could probably help make a team better, but those are rare. Those are few and far between. So
Well, Cleveland is taking their chance this year with McCown. He was signed with Cleveland, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought
Josh
was he
McCown?
in Cleveland or Buffalo? I don't remember.
I can't remember now either.
The
See, there's too many interchangeable pieces.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and it goes for coaching staffs. One thing I am sort of encouraged about is I really like the Bears hiring of Vic Fangio because I like the idea. We dropped a lot of money on Jared Allen, and I don't know if you've been looking at the papers at all, Jim, but I was sort of gratified because Ryan Pace was saying some of the same things that I've said on these broadcasts in direct respect to Jared Allen. He said, hey, the guy had pneumonia. He came back the next week. He dropped 20 or 30 pounds, and how long does it take you to get back up to strength?
Right.
But at the same time, he also recognizes the fact that Jared Allen is at an age, football-wise, where you really have to watch closely to see whether that player's skills are going to diminish. And I think, I think both of those things are correct. I think you had a player who was really weakened. I mean, hey, anybody, I don't care if you're a pro football player or not, you have pneumonia, and you come back to work in a week, I don't think you're going to be the same person.
You're not going to be the same person. I'm finding it interesting, just speaking about the Browns, and I'm trying to understand why this is a problem. That the NFL announced. Let's see. This article is from March 30th.
Okay.
The NFL announced Monday that Browns general manager Ray Farmer was suspended without pay for the first four regular season games of the 2015 season for his violation of the NFL's electronic device policy. He texted during the game.
You're not supposed to text during the game?
Apparently not.
Okay. Better watch that texting during the game.
I know. Boy, oh boy. He could have been, who knows. He texted team personnel from the sidelines from the press box.
Okay.
Farmer said after the season he didn't believe his actions played into offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan's decision to leave the team. Apparently he must have been texting down there and saying, do this.
Okay.
And the NFL also fined the Atlanta Falcons $350,000 and docked the team a 2016 fifth-round draft pick for pumping in crowd noise into the Georgia Dome.
Yeah, actually, they admitted to that.
They admitted to that.
And I think the owners looked into that and said, okay, we deserve the punishment. And I would say of all the stupid NFL league rules that you could violate that are ridiculous, thank you, John. I think that one is not ridiculous because crowd noise is a huge effect.
That's a huge effect.
And that should be they should be punished. And
team president Rich McKay will also be suspended for at least 3 months from the competition committee.
Now back to the way the Bears are going to utilize their personnel this year. I'm looking forward to the fact that they have signed some players that they think will help them in what I think is going to be their 3-4, which is going to be their primary defense. But because of Vic Fangio's MO, I think you're also going to see guys that are left over from last year's team used in situations where they're at their best, because they'll go to a 4-3. They'll use Jared Allen in situations like that.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a real interesting Bears defense you'll see this year.
I think the issue, and I think we've talked about it, and I've heard it said, in a lot of instances, we don't know if players on last year's team, defensive side, were good or bad simply because they were so poorly coached.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be an opportunity for them to actually prove themselves. What did you think of the signing of Ray McDonald from a football standpoint, not from his baggage standpoint?
Well, I think it's got to be a good signing from a football standpoint because you're talking about his defensive coach
right
saying, hey, this guy's got it, so let's sign him.
Right.
And I think Ray McDonald is 30, so the fact that they signed him to a one-year contract is good because he does bring the extra baggage. But the other thing is he is also at that age where I don't know if he's 30, how many years he's been in the league exactly, but
probably
you may be
7.
talking about a guy who's
maybe 7,
on his last couple of good years, so you don't want to stretch out that contract like Emory did with Jared Allen, where you're talking about a 32-year-old guy who's got, what do you have, a 2 or 3 year contract?
I think 2 years guaranteed or something.
2 years guaranteed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it was a good signing, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And the other guys, they signed another linebacker and another defensive end, and I don't know much about them. Jenkins, I think, is the end.
Jenkins.
And the linebacker, I think, is Mason, maybe?
I think so, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't been paying as much attention as I normally would.
I thought
this time of year.
Back to Alan Ball. Not that we want to make this the Alan Ball show, but the interesting thing is
he's getting more pub on our station than anywhere else.
Tim Jennings, I think, Tim Jennings has been a pretty effective player for the Bears, and probably better than I thought he would be. But when they signed him to a big money long-term contract, I thought to myself, and I've said this on the show before, what are they thinking about? And I'm pretty sure Tim Jennings
said that.
is at the end of his career. So we need a cornerback. Fuller will be one, and I think Ball is going to probably step in and be the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Jennings will play nickel or what's going to happen there. But yeah.
All right.
What do you? I was thinking the other thing I was thinking about, Jim, before I came, because we didn't do show prep. is Derrick Rose is liable to come back to the Bulls right before the playoffs.
I'm seeing will be believing.
And I think he will.
I think he will too.
And the thing that I have not an issue with, because obviously he's got to come back, and obviously you got to use him. But the Bulls have been playing really well, and they played well when he was out for some games earlier in the season. With who's our main man there, the little guy who took over at point guard for Derek, the guy that they signed as a free agent. His name's not coming to me. Is it Brooks?
Brooks.
Yeah, I think Aaron Brooks.
I wanted Etuan Moore to have it.
Brooks has been, he's a scoring threat, but obviously he's been able to distribute the ball as well. It hasn't been played up in the press much, but when you see, we've got guys like Pau Gasol and Jimmy Butler and Mirotic, who are capable.
Mirotic has just blossomed these last couple of weeks.
For sure.
Man.
Those guys are capable of scoring, and I think what the interesting thing is that Brooks is capable of scoring too, but he's also obviously been able to distribute the ball, so those guys have been able to score. And I think the team has good chemistry now. And I don't think Derrick Rose is a guy who's going to destroy your chemistry intentionally, but I think the fact that the type of player he is, where even I've seen the players comment in the papers, Derrick's got to have the ball in his hands to be effective. But now, are you going to create a situation where he comes back and he had a nice sort of thing going? It was being orchestrated by Brooks and everybody's contributing. Now is it going to be a lot of guys standing around and watching Derrick and waiting for their opportunity? And I think that could pose some unintentional problems, but I think problems nonetheless.
Yeah, you've kind of developed a nice rhythm right now in the offense. Actually, I watched the game Saturday night against the Knicks. Of course, the Knicks are just a big pile of garbage. But there was a nice, and they beat them by 33, I think it was,
right,
the other night. But there was a nice rhythm going. Everybody was looked nicely in sync.
Right.
And in fact, we sat down there, and Dana came down, sat down for a few minutes, watched it. And she's not a big basketball fan, but her comment was, "Well, who needs Derrick Rose?"
Well, I mean, you almost have to start to think like that. But I'm thinking to myself, Jim, as I'm thinking about coming over here this morning. I'm thinking, wouldn't it be different if the Bulls decided, because Derrick Rose has missed quite a bit of time and they're playing well, maybe to use Derrick in a whole different way. Maybe Derrick could be the first man off the bench. Maybe maybe you could use him to change the pace of the offense. I don't think that they're going to have enough guts, let's put it that way, to do that. But I think that would be.
I don't think they will either.
No,
honestly, I don't think they will either. I think it's going to be something where he's going to start. I don't know what kind of minutes he's going to get.
That's another issue.
That's going to be a big issue, especially with Tibbs. The way he uses players, I don't know what kind of minutes they're going to give him.
Well, speaking of Tibbs and minutes, though, now if what you read is correct, that the front office has imposed some. Is that John?
That's John.
Okay.
As we all reach for our phones.
Yeah, right. As the front office has supposedly imposed some restricted minutes on various players. And Tibbs, being a coach who likes to, play his players as many minutes as he sees fit, I think that if it is the front office who is imposing the minutes, the number of minutes certain players are playing, I think it's working out well. Mm-hmm. Because, hopefully Noah, for one, will be fairly healthy when the playoffs come, because we'll need him. And it goes for other players as well. I mean, I'm not sure. Taj Gibson may be one of those guys that has a minutes restriction because of his ankle. But I think it's a good thing. And I think this is where, even if the front office and the coach don't agree, where it can still work. I mean, okay, Tibbs is saying, okay, that's fine. You're putting the minutes restriction on certain players. Just like any other situation he faces, he's going to work around it. And he's doing a good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's the way he normally does.
yeah, definitely. And I don't really think there's a big conflict between him and the front office. No, I mean, no more of a conflict than any head coach and any front office is going to have, because those conflicts are going to be there regardless of who the team is, what the sport. It's just a natural thing. They're not always going to agree. That's two separate ways of looking at things, and it has to be. And there's not always going to be agreement.
Okay. All right. Since staying on basketball, this weekend is the final.
yeah.
This weekend is the Final Four. Man, I love the article here in the Monday. Sometimes I'm just glancing at the headline from Steve Greenberg's article. The road to Indianapolis, a real bracket buster. Kentucky, check. Wisconsin, check. Duke, check. Michigan State, really?
Yeah. Well, it just shows you what the experts know, because according to everything I read, Wisconsin was obviously the best team in the Big Ten, and they still are.
Won the Big Ten tournament,
but
they had to get by Michigan State.
And here's the other thing, Jim. This was supposed to be a down year for the Big Ten. Yet here's the Big Ten with two teams in the Final Four.
Yeah.
So how down of a year was it?
Can't be very down. Somebody, I heard somebody give a great explanation last night on the radio. I was listening to Lawrence Holmes on the Score, and he had somebody on, and they were talking about they're talking about the teams in the Final Four, and he asked who he had on is, how can you explain Michigan State being in the Final Four? And her response was, it's March, it's Tom Izzo.
It's interesting. I think in the article you're referring to, Greenberg's article there, if you read the whole thing, I think one of the couple articles he wrote in the paper about the Final Four, he refers to Izzo's team, of course, as being hard workers, and there's seniors and juniors on the team, amazingly, and they sort of blended together, and it's teamwork and hard work. And I'm thinking, they always say Kentucky is like a mini NBA team, which disgusts me when I read it. But I mean, they're all going to be draft choices, and most of them will be bust outs. I mean, and they're good college players, but the odds are very few of them, maybe none of them, will be good pro players. But here's the point: Kentucky has probably got the most talented team, but don't disrespect either Michigan State or Kentucky or Wisconsin or Duke. They're all hardworking. This is their teams.
Their teams. This is a really great Final Four.
Yeah.
You've got two really, really good matchups.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I have to admit, I took Wisconsin in the 5 points, and I took Michigan State in the 5 points.
Well, that's good. That's good.
I figure I might as well have a financial rooting interest besides everything else.
You are right though. Tom Izzo seems to be able to. Who was I talking with? I think I was talking with Jim Matthews the other day.
Sunshine.
Jimmy Sunshine. And I said, you know what, Izzo. He's had players that have gone on to the pros, but every year he's got these spear carriers that rise to the occasion, and he never has superstars. Now the other teams, maybe Wisconsin, not to as great a degree as the others, but Wisconsin's got Kaminsky and Decker, and Duke's got Okafor and Jones and Winslow, and Kentucky is is loaded with talent, but Michigan State has nobody that, at least in the popular press, rises to those levels.
No.
But you know what? It's still a team game.
And they play it, and I think the philosophy that Izzo always has before they get into Big Ten play is to go anywhere and play anybody. I mean, let's face it, they've played Duke already this year, so it's not like they haven't seen Duke before.
Yeah, and you realize, how, it's nice in say in Major League Baseball or in a professional sports, every game counts, whether it's early season or end of season. But I noticed that Michigan State, and I probably realized this at the time and forgot about it as the season went on, lost to Texas Southern earlier in the year.
Right.
Texas Southern is an all-black university, and since the integration of the major universities, most of the black schools are not as good athletically as they once were. So to lose to Texas Southern is saying something. Yet here we are in March going into April, and who's in the Final Four but Michigan State? Which, I guess the point I would make is as a college coach, you have the luxury of your non-conference schedule being whatever you want it to be.
Right.
Because it's...
Do you want to play cupcakes just to build up your record, or do you want to play competition to get your team ready for the season? Yeah. And if you've got problems, you discover them early on, and can work it out by the time you get into your season.
That's a great point. See, that's. I think that is. I wasn't going to make that point, but if you're making probably the best point, because that is exactly the nub of the question. You can play your early season games,
right.
see what you need to work on or
right.
fix, and you do it.
Right. A friend of mine used to complain about or used to ridicule Notre Dame's schedule when Digger Phelps was there, because he said early on, what are they playing? The Ippolito School of Cosmetology.
Yeah.
They're playing no competition.
Okay.
You build up your record, but then when you get into the season, you're not going anywhere.
Right. Well, you know what?
And by the way, Notre Dame, I'll say it, John. Get the phone ready. Hell of a team this year.
Yeah, they had a really good team.
Wow, that game against Kentucky.
Yeah. Too bad they couldn't hold on. I would have liked to seen the upset.
Yeah, boy, that was a great game and a great story when you think Mike Bray lost his mother the week before.
Yeah. Well, that's
the
for
inspiration sure. that had. That was a really great story, and I was really pulling for them to knock off Kentucky.
Well, here's the thing that sort of irritates me about the way things are reported. Mike Bray, I think, is a really good coach.
I think he is too.
Coach at Notre Dame for 15 years. Now, they haven't always fared well in the tournament. This year they did. But to me, that doesn't have any... I guess I look at it more like when I see Notre Dame play, I try to look at how they play, and then I relate that to the way their coach coaches them. So the fact that you might stumble and march in the tournament, hey, that can happen. That happens to 64. So how many teams?
Well, it goes 60. It happens to 67 teams.
It happens to 67 teams. So if you're one of them, you're not really in exclusive company. So only one wins. So it's and when you play a single elimination tournament that's as long as this one, and you're playing really competitive schools, it's hard to get through it. So I really have problems when they report a coach like Bray or whoever else might be in this. One of the guys they talk about, who I think is an outstanding coach, and they say he might be on thin ice at Indiana, is Tom Crane. But what I remember is that Tom Crane came in to a program that was in shambles.
Yeah.
I mean, he had almost no scholarship players left and turned that thing around really quick. Now you're saying he's on thin ice? How can you say that?
Yeah, that one I don't understand that either. The thing about Notre Dame, and it goes back to some of the things we were just saying about Michigan State. Do you have a lot of pro prospects on Notre Dame? Probably not. But you got a bunch of guys who know how to play as a team.
Right.
And that was the reason for their success this year.
Oh, no doubt about it. When I don't know how they looked against Kentucky. I didn't see the game, but I saw them play North Carolina when they won the ACC tournament. Mm-hmm. And what impressed me about them is, if you remember the old, say, the 60s variety Celtics or Knicks, who really moved the ball around. They moved it. They moved it.
Yeah.
That's what I saw with Notre Dame. I was thinking, well, I don't care what team you name, Kentucky or whoever it is they're going to be hard to stop offensively. Mm-hmm. And I think I will say this though about Kentucky, Jim. I saw them play part of the West Virginia game, and I don't think West Virginia was a terrible team, but Kentucky
just absolutely destroyed
dominant.
them, doubled up on them.
And the thing that struck me the most was their defense.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an article in the Sun-Times, it was the USA Today part of it, one of the columnists had said, the amazing part of this whole thing with Kentucky is you bring in, like, say you have 10 guys who are probably high school All-Americans, and you say to them, well, only a few of you are going to score in double figures. And on top of that, we're going to have, all 10 of you playing, so you're going to split playing time. And on top of that, we want you to buy into playing some really, really tough defense. So as many times as I hear people criticize John Calipari, I'm going to say that's one heck of a coaching job.
That's a great coaching job. I heard him referred to last night as being very charming, but sometimes you think you're talking to a snake oil salesman. But he gets these kids to buy into the program. He coaches them really, really well.
Yeah, he does. And you know what? Last year at this time, I'm watching the tournament, and they had just won the game, I think, to get into the finals. And they were interviewing one of the Harrison brothers. And I'm thinking, boy, this is a really well-spoken, polite young man. And I think they interviewed another player, same thing. And I'm like, the way the papers portray it, these are all, and they all are guys who obviously want to go on and they want to play professional basketball. But there are people out there who'll say, well, these are all, these are a bunch of, I don't know hooligans that want to play basketball.
Street thugs who just want to playground thugs who just want to play basketball.
Exactly. But
they're not there for an education.
But these are, the ones I've seen interviewed are well-spoken young men, polite, very, not all with all the crazy. Hey, look at me, very magnanimous, or what would you say, polite, and giving credit to their teammates and their coach.
I think what Calipari is doing, he's prepping. You go to college to prep yourself for a career. Mm-hmm. Every opportunity, every alternative, everything you might face. What is Calipari doing with his team? He's prepping them for their career.
Yeah,
teaching them what they're supposed to be like and how to represent themselves. Also, how to represent Kentucky as a university. Break the station. We'll put it back together after this.
Mm-hmm.
You are listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM, 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, April the 1st, the year of our Lord, 2015, with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And you are tuned to Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM in Norwich, Illinois. And now, back to Jim and Rich.
Thank you there, Doctor of the Dials, John DeVita.
Yes, John.
Where were we?
Well, you know what? There was one person I wanted to mention because of last week I read an article, and they had an article about 3 players who were in, I don't know how many teams were left, that were multiple sport athletes when they were in high school. One was Pat Connaughton from Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the other one, but the other was Willie Cauley-Stein from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And I look at Willie Cauley-Stein, and he's
7 foot tall.
He's not my cup of tea when it comes to his body ornamentation. But I have to say, I became a Willie Cauley-Stein fan because he said in the article, basically he says, you know what, any kid who specializes when he's in high school is just missing the boat. And I think he went to a really small school. I can't remember where he's from. But his first year or two, he was a real small school. He played football, basketball, track.
Jeez.
I'm not sure if he was on the baseball team as well. Then when he went to, and I don't know what happened with the school he was at, whether they closed or whatever, but he went to a bigger school. But he still played football, so he's a basketball and football guy. But he said no, you are there should be no way that you specialize. You should try all the sports or the ones you want to try. And I said, you know what? I'm a Willie Cauley-Stein fan from now on.
Just for that.
Yep.
Just for that alone, that would be the one reason about it. Hey, what did you think of the DePaul hiring, Dave Lato?
Jim, you want to know something? I think we've talked a few times about DePaul and said, we haven't had a good team since Dave Lato. And I didn't know what happened to Dave Lato after he went to Virginia. He sort of faded away, but I guess he was an assistant at Missouri for a while, and now he was an assistant to Tulsa or something?
Yeah, Tulsa.
And I'm thinking to myself as they were interviewing, who was it, Bobby Hurley Jr., and they had somebody else. Bryce Drew. But in the back of my mind, Lato was there. Now, I'm not saying that I thought they were going to hire Lato, because I didn't even know if Lato was coaching at all. But it didn't really surprise me that much because I always felt like this. I don't think Lato left for the right reasons, and
No,
I think
he didn't.
I think he refers to that.
He
when
referred to
came
that.
back,
Yeah.
and he had success here. So why not revisit that and see if you can replicate it? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of, I like the hire. Here's a guy who knows the lay of the land and has had success here. Why not bring him back?
I think he's getting criticized because he left here the way he did. Mm-hmm. The alumni I know are not particularly pleased. Mm-hmm. Some of the fundraisers refer to him as Trato.
Sure. Okay.
And you know what? I mean, you got a program.
Thanks, John.
You got a program that's been down since he left.
Yeah. Definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, the last time they made the NCAA tournament, he was the head coach.
Well, I think a lot of people will change their attitude if he comes back and has some success as he had the first time.
Yeah, and it's going to be a case of how, what is it going to be? It's going to be a case of how well he recruits. I see he's keeping, he's retaining Billy Garrett Jr., or Sr., rather, as an assistant, which obviously will keep his best player on the team still there, Billy Garrett Jr.
Well, I think that
it was kind of a head scratcher when I heard that one come out.
It was interesting to say the least. I think the thing I would say, and I know that Oliver Purnell is a good coach and had some success at he was he Clemson or Georgia?
Clemson, and he was at Dayton.
So, but I always thought, no disrespect to Purnell, but I thought that the recruiting was sort of it didn't seem like the players meshed. I mean, and I'm not really a close observer of the Paul scene in the Purnell era, but it just, as I read about it, it didn't seem like everything meshed. You had Chicago guys, then you had guys from other areas you brought in. I don't think that they may have been good players, but they just didn't mesh. I think Lato will bring a different dimension in terms of putting a team together that meshes. One of the
things that I noticed a couple of times just about Lato's coaching style was if one of his players did something wrong and he pulled him from a game, he gave him an opportunity for a little bit of a teaching moment on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. And, before he just made them sit down, it was, come here. You could see him explaining. Mm-hmm. He says, okay, sit down, and then the next opportunity, that player was back into the ballgame. As opposed to prior to that, when Pat Kennedy got mad at somebody, yanked him out, sat him down at the end of the bench, and that was it. Of course, the other thing, and I've mentioned this before, I was in a post-game press conference when Kennedy was there. And it was a game, I can tell you, it was a game against Chicago State. My friend Arthur provided me with a press pass. I was sitting down courtside. And I went to the post-game press conference. Kennedy said all the coach-like things that you would expect about his players. It was a relatively easy game, although they did have a little bit of difficulty getting by Chicago State. Bo Ellis was the coach there then. But when he got in front of the alumni and got in front of the fundraisers after the game and talked about the game over in the Blue Demon room, he ridiculed every one of his players.
Well, that's not good.
No.
Well, what you said about Lato with the teaching moment is important because I think, especially now you're talking about still young guys, college-age guys, and they need to, no matter how skillful they may be, how much basketball they've played, and they've played quite a lot. They're still young, and I think it is a good style of coaching, what you're describing Leto doing. I think even when you get to the pro level, especially if you get into, say, a big game situation or something like that, even your best players, sometimes it's just good, even though you may think they know. Anybody could sort of get caught up in the moment. So for a coach to remind a player, this is the situation or this is what needs to be done, is always a good thing. I mean, even I don't care who you take, anybody. It's always a good
at
thing.
whatever level it is.
And as a coach, you cannot assume that somebody is going to be, because the coach's job is to see the overall situation. Say we've got a foul here because we're down by some points and we got a minute to go in the game. You can't assume that everybody's going to be thinking the same way, and so you have to remind. That's just more of a strategy thing. You're talking more of a teaching thing in terms of a guy maybe not playing defense properly, not being where he's supposed to be on the floor, whatever. But it also translates into strategy type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's get into baseball.
Let's not.
All right,
All
let's
right,
forget
let's-
about
no,
it. Listen, we're
we
going to
can
knock
go
off.
ahead.
We're going to knock off early, John. Where it's going to be about 20 minutes of dead air. Can you wrap it up? Play some music, John.
Okay. I know you texted me the other day that Bryant and Baez were both sent down by the Cubs.
Yeah. Baez, I understood.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to work on something, and his head is so screwed up. I think right now with everybody in his ear or him trying to solve his issues.
Yeah.
I understand that one.
Mm-hmm.
That one I expected. Bryant, and I can't grasp why people can't understand Bryant. What would you rather have? Would you rather have control of a player for 6 seasons or 7 seasons?
Well,
I'll pose that theoretical question out to you, Mr. Massaro.
Well, if he's a good player, you want him for 7.
Okay, so is it worth 21 days in the minors to keep that year?
Yeah, I mean,
Especially since it's contractually allowed.
If we were living in a vacuum, I'd say fine. But the thing that I would say, especially with his agent, is that okay, when you finally get to whatever it's going to be, 6 or 7 years, and he has the ability to become a free agent, if he's been a very productive player, which I think he will be, have you ticked him off enough by this 12 or 21 day period to say, well, he's going to take the next best offer and leave town? So I think there's a flip side to this. And I don't know, Chris Bryant himself seems like a really...
he has no problems with Cub management.
Yeah, he seems fine, but he's got an agent that is a little bit of a wild card and plays it strictly for, I would say, my opinion, and there's nothing wrong with this, but he is looking out for his players' best interest and his best interest at the same time. It's
the double-edged sword. Yes, he as the agent has to look out for Chris Bryant's interest, and Chris Bryant is going to be a nice paycheck for him, whatever he gets for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the new baseball commissioner basically said what I think was very good. Scott Boras ought to mind his own business.
Well, that is his business, though.
But
and
baseball
is obviously his business.
But here's the issue. It's allowed contractually. It's allowed by the Players Association.
Let me ask you another question then. The Cubs supposedly are possibly going to be a contending team this year.
I don't think so. I don't
All
think
right,
so.
but I mean there are people who say they are.
82 and 80.
So why would you, if you think that you can contend, why would you send a productive player away for? I mean, because those games in the beginning of the season, which he could be, having a part in winning, he's not going to be there for. So why would you end up doing that?
I don't know. Maybe you brought it up once before. You really want to see what Mike Holt can do at third base.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean these goofballs are going to play these guys all over the place.
Well,
so.
no, they've already said head for left field for Bryant.
Head for left field.
Learn how to play left field.
That's good. How is Olt doing, by the way?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know.
I mean, you don't. There's no article. There's no stories about him
Nothing.
in the paper.
Nothing going on about him, and I don't know if Tommy LaStella is going to start at third base.
Well, I think now he's probably going to start at second base, isn't he?
I would think now he's going to start at second base.
I can hardly wait to see Tommy LaStella go deep in the count. That's what I'm waiting for.
You're almost as excited as seeing the pitches being framed by the catcher.
Well, let me ask you this question, since we're on the Cubs, and we are looking at the prospect of going to the season with 3 catchers. And here's the thing that really kills me. Now, if David Ross is such a great pitch framer, and he's like a career 180-something hitter.
He's only there to catch John Lester.
Okay, here's what I would say. Well, I'll go back to what Brandon Phillips said in the paper the other day.
I didn't get a chance to go look.
He basically said this, and I laughed, and I was like, Brandon Phillips, I don't care. You could put as much mustard on that hot dog as you want. But I have become a Brandon Phillips fan because he said, what is wrong with baseball? He says, all of a sudden we have 230 hitters who take a lot of walks, and they're like the most valuable guys that everybody wants. He goes, I'm here to drive in runs. He says, that's the name of the game. And he says, what are, and I when he said it like that, that resonated with me because I'm like, that's exactly what I see happening in the game. I agree with him. I mean, we're talking about Tommy LaStella, being a valuable player because he's going to hit 230 and walk 50 times or something. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. And I guess the point I would make is you have Wellington Castillo, who may not frame pitches as well as Ross, but has got a really good arm as a catcher. And let's just say, I don't know if this is right or not, but let's say David Ross is a 180-something career hitter. And I'm pretty sure he's a little better than this, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, Wellington Castillo is a 230 lifetime hitter. That's a difference of almost 50. That's 40-some points difference. So, in other words, just because this guy frames pitches better, he hits 40 points less, that's the guy you're going to keep, and you're going to ship the other guy out or trade him? That's ridiculous.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
SI projected, they got their baseball issue. LaStella, your guy, Tommy, they're projecting him at 278 with a 357 on-base percentage.
Wow, 278. How did they figure that? How many at-bats does this dude really have in the major leagues?
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't understand that.
I'll tell you, these stats, John, I don't know if you're a baseball or a fan of any of this, but these stats that they have come up with to start to...
These projections.
Yeah. Let me tell you.
I'll give you the line on Chris Bryant. The slash line, 244, 329, 453. 26 home runs, 80 RBIs.
Okay, he hasn't had one at-bat in the major leagues.
Hasn't had a major league at-bat.
So how do you come up with any kind of a slash line? I mean, it gets to the point of being totally ridiculous. And I just think, I got to say, Brandon Phillips said it exactly the way I would say it. What is going on here?
Why is this, he's right. He's right.
No doubt
I would
about
have
it.
to agree. I mean, even being a numbers guy, I would look at that and say, yeah, where has this game gone from the game that you and I grew up watching and falling in love with to what this formulas and books and charts and graphs?
Yeah. Well, Jim, and we talked about this before, but I'm thinking as we're saying this, do you remember when the Sox had Ralph Garr?
Yeah. The Roadrunner.
Ralph Garr was always hit better than 300, no matter where he was at. And I remember Harry Carey, and I didn't follow. I catch these things in bits and pieces. But Harry Carey did not like Ralph Garr's style. And I remember him having Ralph Garr on the leadoff band, and several other players appeared with Ralph Garr to support Ralph Garr. But Harry Carey's position was, yes, he hits over 300. He's the leadoff man. He doesn't get on base enough, though. So 300, Harry Carey accurately said, if you're hitting 315 and you're the leadoff man, but it's only 315 because you don't take a walk here or there or whatever, that's not good enough. Well, he didn't need all of these stats to observe that. And he's not even technically a member of the club. He's the broadcaster. So if he could see that as an observer of 162 games of baseball or whatever it was at that point, certainly the manager knew that. Certainly the front office knew that. Certainly everybody in the league knows that. So none of this stuff is new.
No.
It's not new at all. Mm-hmm. And they may not have put a stat to it, but they knew it anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. People could recognize it for what it was worth back then.
Jim, when the year after the Hawks, what was their first Stanley Cup
10.
with this group? 10?
10.
I'm umpiring a softball game at Merrimack Park, and the guy by the name of Mike Smith is catching, and he is one of the co-owners of Irving's Hot Dogs down there not far from Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Or what is it, Irving and Sheffield? Or
Yeah,
something.
Irving and Sheffield, yeah.
And he's a big hockey fan. So I said, geez, you know what? I understand why the Hawks have to get rid of all these guys, but I wish they wouldn't get rid of Big Buff. He said, you know what Buff's plus-minus average was? And then he told me. And I said, you know what, Mike? I don't care what Buff's plus-minus average is. I could see what that man brings on the ice. I mean, when he's in front of that net, I'll tell you what, that whole series between them and Philadelphia, to me, was a duel between Buff and Chris Pronger. Those two guys. Yeah. You were focused in on those two guys almost to the exclusion of everything else.
Yeah, because you were watching what those two guys were going to do to each other, and I've always felt that the plus minus is about as goofy a stat as the RBI, because the plus minus is not a measure of that player's ability alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a measure of everyone he's on the ice with.
It is. It is. And I said I don't care what his plus minus is. I could see what happens when that guy's on the ice, and it's all, to me, it's positive. And now you look at Buff in Winnipeg; he's an all-star. He's an excellent player still.
Yeah.
But I mean, and my point would be, and we were obviously talking about baseball, but it applies to baseball as well. I could tell you when a player is an effective player and when one is more effective than the other. I don't need a stat to tell you that. You remember Brian Dayette?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Dayette, I looked up his career record because I remember the short time he was with the Cubs.
It was with Cleveland, too, wasn't he?
I think he was with the Yankees at one time. Might have been Cleveland.
Yankees.
Now, he has no great career stats at all. But when the Cubs would send him up to pinch hit, there was anticipation because you knew this guy had the potential to hit the ball hard and maybe hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Now, I'll bet you he didn't hit more than 20 career home runs. But there was a guy that if I'm on the team and I'm sitting there, I don't mind seeing the manager sending Brian Dayette up to the plate because I think something good might happen. And even if it doesn't, I still don't feel bad about it. I feel good about him being on the team and being up at the plate. Now, there's no stat that he has that stands out at all.
No, there are guys who were always very effective in that role.
Right.
I mean, I can go back to when we were kids. Smokey Burgess getting off the bench to pinch hit.
Oh, God, yeah. And how about the ultimate Cub killer, Jerry
Lynch? That was the next name I was going to bring up. There was a guy, he'd come up and you go, oh, Lord.
Yeah, we're in trouble now.
We're in trouble now.
Yeah.
And
I just find it interesting. I think these stats are really, I think they confuse something that's really not complicated. I think it's really rather simple. And I think good baseball people, when they observe baseball players, don't need stats to tell you what these guys can do. Mm-hmm. Or any other sport, for that matter.
Okay. Well, let's see if the curse of SI this year will carry true because they're predicting the Indians over the Nationals in the World Series.
The Indians over the Nationals. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, they really I wouldn't pick either of those teams.
Nationals, I think, are a good ball club. They're going to have a really good pitching staff. Now, again, we'll see. But the way they've got their postseason predictions, the AL wild card game, Tigers over the Angels. In the NL, the Pirates over the Marlins. In the division series, the Mariners over the Tigers and the Indians over the Red Sox in the AL, and the Nationals over the Pirates and the Dodgers over the Cardinals in the NL. AL Championship Series, Indians over the Mariners, NL Nationals over the Dodgers. Got the Cubs at 82 and 80, got the White Sox at 83 and 79. Both seem to be reasonable numbers.
Yeah, I think if you talk to White Sox fans, they'd probably say that they think the numbers are going to be a lot better than that. But I would say
they're both reasonable numbers.
That is probably, I think the 83 number is probably better than the more optimistic number for the Sox. As much as they've seemed on paper to improve the team, what's on paper doesn't always translate to what happens in the field.
No, I think they had a really, really great offseason with what they did. Now, the early one that I picked up back a while back in February when I saw the first baseball magazine out, the Sporting News, comes down to their predictions in the wild card game. In the AL, the White Sox over the Angels. In the National League, the Cardinals over the Giants. In the division series, the Tigers over the White Sox and the Mariners over the Red Sox in the AL. In the NL, the Cardinals over the Nationals and the Cubs over the Dodgers. In the championship series, the Tigers over the Mariners and the Cubs over the Cardinals. And their World Series pick, the Cubs over the Tigers. Now that's optimistic. That's optimistic. By golly.
Well, I'm feeling pretty good that the Cubs are going to keep Edwin Jackson around.
Are you?
Because I'm not so sure that their rotation.
Well, you're a majority of one.
Well, I don't know that their rotation is going to stay healthy enough to for the whole year. I think they're going to need that depth. They're going to need somebody to run out there every 5 days and
give up 10 runs
and pitch. The other thing is the Sox. I don't think it's a good sign that Chris Sale got hurt in spring training.
No.
Doing whatever he was doing.
I don't know what it is. However, he broke his foot.
And, David Robertson hasn't exactly been tearing it up.
And Petricka has something going on with him, I think.
Jim, what I really don't understand is they gave Robertson, I think I want to say a 4-year, $40-some million contract.
Deal. It was a 4-year deal.
I don't see, if I was an owner, I think I'd have a hard time owning a ball club because I don't think I would ever give a pitcher. I might give 2 years, but I would never go 3-4 years. I just think that's a bad idea.
I think it was very obvious this year with what they did. Jerry basically told them, let's go for it.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised. I think everyone was surprised.
Yeah.
At the way the attitude of the White Sox.
Yeah.
But I think and you can never criticize Reinsdorf for his abilities as an owner.
Mm-hmm.
He understands value. He understands when it's time to do it. And I think the opportunity to go for it this year was appealing to him because, let's face it, Jerry isn't going to be around much longer.
That's true.
Jerry's even older than you, John. Oh my God!
So Jerry wants he wants the championship ring one more time. And yeah, I understand that.
I understand that philosophy.
Jim, this is
any team that's got my guy Emilio.
Let me say something that isn't sports related. But when you said Jerry is older than John, yesterday I'm over at Village Hall for early voting. And I'm standing out there because we're passing out things for people coming in. And Dom Feligario came out a couple times, and Dom is 82.
Really?
Yeah, Dom's 82.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
And
I really didn't know that.
After he wins this election, he serves his term. Hopefully, he'll be healthy and serve his term. He'll be 86. But when I looked at Dom and you talked to him, one of the things that goes through my head that I've known Dom for probably 40 years is when you get to the point, say you're 82, okay, there can't be that many years left. How do you really handle it? I mean, when I look at Dom, I love the way he handles it because he's always been the same Dominic. He comes out, he says a few things that are funny, he talks to everybody nice but I'm thinking, really, I mean, you and I still aren't quite to the age where that is something that's on our mind. But I say, when you're 82 and Dom's in pretty good health, what do you say to yourself every day? How do you approach every day? Because there's not that many more days left.
You never know. I mean, I see some of my clients come in that I've known for a long time, and you look at them, and lady was in yesterday who's 90. We had somebody else. One guy comes in. He still drives over. He's 92.
Mm-hmm.
Still in good, comes limping, a little bit slower, but by God, he comes marching in the door. And I thought about that the other day with lady came in to drop off her mom's return, and I've been doing their return for a long time, and we started talking about when her dad was alive.
Mm-hmm.
And her dad was that kind of way until he took a spill one day, and that was the end. That was, Tony wasn't the same after that point.
Sure.
And
it
it upset him more. I had a situation right now with a cousin who's Bill is 13 years older than me, but he's going through some health issues right now, and it's a concern because all of a sudden at this point, all of a sudden the issues of dementia are popping up.
Okay.
And that's scary for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? I'm not saying this because I'm not trying to put the jinx on Dom because I love Dom, but what I'm saying is just I admire. I think when a person gets to a certain age and still has a good attitude about life and still can have because Dom has a positive outlook on life. How do you do that? Am I going to be able to do that if I get to that point in time? I admire the people who do it.
It's a great attitude to have, and I think I probably have told you this. I had a lady who had been doing her return, and last year she came in, and Florence was, I think Florence was 95 when she came in last year, and it was the first year she didn't need to file a tax return.
Okay.
Her income wasn't enough to file a tax return. And her niece brought her in, and I came down and I said, listen, Florence, don't need to do anything this year. You don't have enough income. And I told her niece, we chatted a little bit, and I told her niece, I said, listen, when you get her stuff in next year, I said, give me a call, just let me know, and we'll go over the income and see if she really needs to file. I don't want you to make a trip over here for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, Florence, we're done. We don't need to do anything this year. I said, you made a trip over for nothing, but what are you going to do now? And she says, I think I want to go. I think we're going to go over to the Longhorn, and we're going to have dinner. Mm-hmm. She said, I like to have a good steak, and I think before that, I want to have a Manhattan.
All right.
All right, Florence, you're my girl.
Yeah.
There's 95, 96 years old, has got problems health-wise that she's got to use the walker and is always hunched over. But by God, she wanted a Manhattan. I think about my mom. It's coming up. My mom will be gone 4 years as of Friday. And her comment always when we go out to dinner, there was one question, especially if it was a new place. They got scotch?
I think they all got scotch, Dolores, yeah.
Yeah, I said they got scotch. She said, okay, let's go.
Right on.
That's right. That's the attitude to take. Scotch is the key to long life.
There you go.
Scotch and Manhattans might be the key to long life. They do say a glass of wine every day. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, we've had our philosophical...
And I'm with Bloody Marys.
All right, John.
I had one last night.
There you go.
Hey, by the way...
You put the celery in it?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, then it becomes a health food drink.
Before we go, I'm going to say this on the air. I'm going to be at Village Hall all week this week, except for Saturday. And then I'll probably be there in the morning. But, John, I hope I'll see you and Oscar, because you can still register to vote. Mm-hmm. and then vote, because I hope I see both of you guys there before the week's out. So
Okay.
Are you good? You going to be over there today?
yeah, I'll be over there today, probably right after I leave here.
All right, probably get over there and maybe get my early voting done. So.
Yep. So.
All right.
Yep. Every little bit helps.
Any other thoughts there, Mr. DeVetta? I thought you had something on your mind the way you.
No. I just thinking about the voting coming up. Was it April the 7th, right?
April 7th
is election day, but
Election day is April 7th. Early voting goes through Saturday, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And, actually, according to Mayor Shimura, if the stats hold true, about 40% of the voting will be done early. So it's not like the old times of Election Day where everybody comes on April 7th.
Yeah.
Okay. We also want to remind everyone, keep on the Kevin Moore bandwagon. We need to make sure we help him, and don't forget that fundraiser, Norwich Cares fundraiser, coming up the 18th.
Right.
I got to get my ticket for that.
Definitely.
Maybe when I go over to Village Hall today and vote, maybe I'll get my ticket then, too.
There you go.
There you go. All right.
Sounds good.
Hey, time for us to wrap it up and get out of here. For no preparation, I think we did pretty doggone good, didn't we?
Of course we did.
Yeah, of course. Another one that when it needs to be wrapped up and sent off to the Broadcast Hall of Fame. There we go. All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mr. DeVetta.
Thank you once again, Doctor of the Dials. We will catch you soon. We're out of here. We're Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, April the 1st, the year of our Lord, 2015, on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with the WRHS sports announcers Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita. Radio station manager for WRHS FM Norwich is Kevin Zeflik, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is Mr. John Seconda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, March the 31st. Until next time, please be safe, and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.